All right, hello everyone. Coach Aaron here. Welcome to my training videos. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, um, these videos have been created for my students, for you, in order to help your personal chess development. Um, and this is just another way for us at Complete Chess to get you practicing more of the tactics and for us to be able to show them and to teach them in a more repetitive way. In order for you to get better at chess, you must do many tactics, and the funnest and the most instructive way to do that is through doing puzzles. And so now, this semester, I'm going to be doing more Puzzle Rush during the classes, and in order to get more tactics training in, and also I'll be explaining some more tactics through the videos. So at the beginner level, which most of our students across the entire programs all over the schools are pretty much at the beginner level. So the more at your level, the more you see, the more games you will win. It's pretty straightforward. Um, Whoever sees the winning checkmate, or whoever sees the hanging pieces, whoever sees the most, will end up winning the game. It's just the way the beginner chess goes. And so my goal is to get you to start seeing more of the chess tactics that are going on, attacks, threats, and especially the forced checkmate patterns. And because I want to help you start seeing what strong players see over the board. And the best way to do that is through doing tactics puzzles. So I recommend that you watch the videos all the way through. If you need to pause and rewind, go back and do so. And I also recommend that you watch them a few times um, until you understand them, and until you get each problem where in later videos you're able to follow along really quickly, where it almost seems like I'm going too slow, in other words. And so when you get on, um, maybe on when you're on another website, or if you're playing at the club or you're playing against friends, the moves start to become more natural. And so for those of you that are my tournament players that are competing in tournaments, um, you may want to try to work tactics training on your own, either through the chess.com platform, through the Chess Kid platform, and as well as watch the videos a few times as well, and especially do so as the tournament approaches. It's going to be key for your development and to get ready for that tournament, because the better prepared you are, the more games you'll win. So, okay, so let's begin now. Um, right now we're going to do some Puzzle Rush. So, um, what we'll do here is I'm going to go through the first ones like I usually do, slow at first, explaining each one, and then we'll go from there. We'll try to pick up the pace in the later ones, but for this first one, I'll be happy if we just get through about 20 or so tactics problems here with the Puzzle Rush. So we're in no hurry. This is the first video. There will be a video, at least one a week, and when there's things going on in the chess world, I may do some special videos, or when I have a big tournament or I see something that we need some more work on in the classes, I'll definitely crank them out as we go through. So this is a project that I started last semester, but I started later in the semester. This semester I'm pretty excited that I'm starting at the very beginning. So we're all going to be in it together as the video content's being produced. So I'm just going to be quiet and start playing. So I hope you're ready. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Alright, let's do this here. Turn down the volume here. Okay, this is going to be a checkmate on the back rank. You see this king here is a little vulnerable. We may not be able to checkmate, but we definitely have a skewer here. This is a common tactic, one of our basic tactics, a skewer. When the king is in check by a piece, has to move out of the way, and then the piece behind it is under attack and exposed. So we're going to take there, the king's going to move out of the way, and we then win the rook behind it. That is called a skewer, one of our basic tactics. One of the three basic tactics. You've probably heard me say that, okay, here white to move. It looks like this black king is really vulnerable here. A lot of the squares are being taken, and so we just have to find the attacking move. And I think here, because this white piece, the bishop is defending both of these two white pieces, we're going to leave them right where they're at. And I think here we're going to have a checkmate pattern by just advancing this pawn forward one square, checking the king, and the king will have no safe squares to go, no piece to capture this pawn and get out of check. So that's going to be a checkmate there. Okay, let's go to the next one here. We're black on this side. It looks like this queen and this rook here are on two really vulnerable squares, with this black knight sitting really close to them. And I think this is a knight fork. This is one of our other basic tactics. We looked at the skewer in the first problem. Now this is a fork. When the knight takes this pawn, we're going to be attacking the queen and the rook at the same time, and so we're going to win the exchange. We're going to win one of those pieces because white will only be able to get one piece out of the way here, and so this is going to be the winning line here. Knight takes this pawn. There's no way for white pieces to recapture the knight once it gets on c4. So knight to c4 is going to fork both these two pieces, winning one of them. Okay, black to move here. This white king is a little vulnerable here to attack because he's running out of squares on this side, and it looks like we've got another skewer attack with the rook coming to check the king. The king cannot stay protecting this knight, so when we move out of the way, we're going to win this knight behind it. Notice the black king cannot take the knight here, because the kings are going to be right next to each other. These kings can never be next to each other on squares right next to each other. They are mortal enemies. They do not like each other. They are not best friends or besties. They will never be. They always have to be one square apart. They will never be next to each other. So in that case, when the king moves out of the check from the rook, we're going to win this knight behind it. And there's nothing that the white king can do about it. So let's play the tactic. And this is a simple skewer. Now notice we don't go with the king, because if we go with the king, then the white king is just going to take my rook, and we'll be losing this endgame, because white will just start pushing these pawns, and we're going to make new queens. So we have to take with the rook. Next one. We have a hanging rook here. My bishop can just take this white rook, but I want to take a moment and try to find a stronger move. Let me see if I have a stronger move. Can I take here? No, I cannot, because that pawn is defended. Looks like he's defended pretty well. Yeah, I think this is probably going to be the strongest move. There's no checks or no threats against my king that I have to worry about. So this is going to be a win of a rook. Okay, winning rooks. Let's start with the white queen here. Looks like there'll be a check, and probably a checkmate will follow. This black king is a little vulnerable back here, because when your pawns get to the edge of the board, close to the king here, they start taking away key squares, and of course if the king tries to go this way also later, it may not work so well. My queen is under attack by this rook, so I do have to move it out of the way, and I think queen here is going to lead to a checkmate, because he's got a block with the rook here, but then it's just going to be won the next move, and that's a checkmate there. Okay, this next one looks like a back rank style checkmate or winning a piece. Let me see if that's going to be the answer here really fast. I ran out of time. Ran out of time, but we at least started there. Okay. Let me see if I can finish this one. because I started the answer. It was a check. Yep, I see the answer now. Queen takes there. Queen plays here. Check. Now the knight made this a curious move here. When he blocked with the knight, he exposed his queen to attack here. So here the right answer is just to take the queen here. There's no checkmate here. I cannot continue the attack on the king with the queen here because the bishop will just take, or the king will take. The queen is not defended, and so she's just getting too close to the king. There's no attack there. So we have to take the queen. She's undefended, and it's a free queen. That's decisive in a chess game. So the rest of the game would be pretty easy for white to win this game. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so we got 6, and then we did that extra 7th one. So let's go again. When we do these puzzles, they're going to be the really basic tactics. This is what I really love about Puzzle Rush, that we get to work on a lot of really basic tactics, and we're going to see the patterns over and over again. We should be able now to see the skewer tactic with the open file. Rooks love open files, and so when we see an open file of the rook all the way to the edge of the board with a vulnerable king that's in the center of the board, this is almost always a clue that there's a tactic here with the skewer, and I think this is actually going to be a checkmate right there because the king has no escape squares. But if he did, we would have won the rook. Okay, next one. Okay, it looks like we have rolling rooks. Rolling rooks. This is not a good place for this king here on the edge of the board with all these rooks and black pieces coordinated. This is going to be a checkmate in one move with the rook playing here, and that's because the king cannot escape to any of these squares. Again, the kings can never be next to each other, so he can't go to those squares. He can't capture this rook because it's defended by the pawn, and so that's an illegal move, and he can't play here because the black rook covers the squares on this line, so the rook would cover these squares as well, and the king would be in checkmate. So let's play it. This one, it looks like we have a checkmate pattern here. You should see the bishop and the queens. I think in one of my classes we talked about this. It's called a battery. It's a tactical theme of a battery where the bishop here and the queen are lined up on the same diagonal, and that allows us to give a checkmate here on h7 because the black king has nowhere to go, cannot capture the queen because it's defended by this bishop. So the bishop and the queen are working together as a team to win the game. Let's move on. This looks like we're going to checkmate this king in the corner because he's blocked in by his other pieces. So I think a simple knight check here will win the game immediately. Yes, it'll win the game immediately because the king has no way to escape. The queen is going to cover all these squares that the king, so the king can't go this way, and there's no way for the black pieces to cover this square on f6. There's just no way to cover it, so this is going to win immediately. So here the white knight dropped back in order to stop the king from being checked this way. So that's not really going to help us. We could just take the free knight here. Let's see if there's a stronger move. Can I still play this? Check, and then knight takes. Oh, I'll get in check in a recheck. So that's not going to be as forcing. So I think I can just take the knight here, and then we would checkmate next move. He's checking me first, but I think I can just block here. I can block with the rook, which I have to block with the rook because if I move the king away, he's going to take my rook, and we're probably going to lose that endgame. So I block with that rook, and that will be the winning line. Okay, this next one. Looks like we might have a pawn fork. If I capture this pawn on the next move, I'll be threatening both of these pieces, and the pawn is defended by the knight as well, so that might be a good tactic, but I'm going to look at some other tactics just in case. This bishop check, this doesn't work because there's no other piece defending the bishop on that square, so we're just going to give up. We're just going to give away a piece, either one of those two moves. Moving in here with the attack is a little slow because same thing, we're just going to win a pawn or here we can possibly win a piece. So I think this is the right move. Then bishop recaptures, and then we just take with the knight, and we're up the exchange. That's a common fork. What happens when your opponent brings the pieces in? We'll look at it here in a second. We have, it looks like a checkmate attack here. We have rooks here, both of them coming into the center of the board. We also have the queen coming in with the battery of the rook. So we talked about the battery of a bishop and a queen along a diagonal, but you can also have a battery with a queen and a rook along a file or a rank. Files go up and down, ranks go side to side. So let's, we're running low on time, so I'm going to start with this move, the check. The king is going to drop back, and it looks like we're just going to give a checkmate on this square because there are no black pieces that are covering this square that can capture the queen once she moves here. The bishop's out of position, the queen's out of position, everything's out of position. So that's going to be a checkmate there. Let's see if I can do one more in 5 seconds. I don't think I will, but let's try. Ah, I missed it. I missed it. I tried to. No worries. Okay, let's look at one. I think here the answer was just queen takes here, and that wraps it up pretty fast. Let me just double check it though. I want to just double check it. Okay, so bishop takes there, queen takes, and then queen takes. What if the rook drops in? Then I think I would just move the queen again. Yeah, I would just move the queen. So here, yeah, that's going to win. That's going to win because if the rook plays to block it, then we just win the other rook from queen f7. Let's look at that really fast. Yeah, here. I got to play all the moves again. Takes, takes, takes. Rook has to block here because the king can't move. He can't move out of check. Moving here, he's in check. And so the only move then is to block with the rook. And then we drop the queen back here with check. And then when the rook drops back to block, again, then we just take it here. And we have a checkmate. A basic checkmate pattern. It's a little bit longer. It was, how many moves? 5 move? A 5-move combination, but 4-move combination. But still, we end in checkmate. That would have been hard to do in 5 seconds, I think. Alright, let's see. Okay, I think we can do one more. Let's do one more. Let's try to go for 10. Let's try to go for 10. What do y'all say? Let's try to go for 10, and boom. Here we go. So we're going to speed up a little bit. This is going to be a 2-rook checkmate. This rook's going to take this queen, and this king's going to be blocked in from moving anywhere. It's going to be a checkmate. Again, back rank checkmate it looks like. We have an open file with the rook. Yes, this black rook will come back and block, but it's not going to be defended on this square. We're going to win with a checkmate. Take, take, and mate. Let's see. We would love to be able to play here, but the rook is not defended on that square. So not so fast. It looks like we have a hanging bishop with a check attack, and it looks like checkmate will follow if black is not careful. But that's the end of the problem. Even better. Okay, here we go. Black to move. This knight is attacking. This rook might be able to attack here, and it looks like that's going to be the answer here. This knight is covering this square and working against this pawn. But this rook has to go in to give the check. Moving with the knight first is not going to give a check, so it's not as strong of a move. But here, the rook is strong because now the white king is not going to have an escape square there, here, and he won't be able to retake. So rook takes pawn. Here is the checkmate. We have a hanging queen, but so do we. So we have to find the right sequence here. We may just have a back rank checkmate here. Yeah, they're trying to trick us. We don't want to go for the material here because we're going to lose our material as well, and we're going to miss out on the checkmate. This is the right move here, checkmate. In one move, no way to block it. No way to stop it. We have an attack here on this pawn, which is undefended, and it's also going to allow us to take the rook, which is undefended on the next move. When we find a good move, though, I'm going to look for a stronger move, just in case. It looks like that's the only one. I can castle my king, but that's weak sauce, because I can win material right away. He's going to try to break out, give himself an extra space, but we can just take the rook, free rook. Winning all day. This looks like a checkmate in one move, because this square is undefended, and the bishop and the queen are working together. The king won't be able to take either piece, because they're both defending one another. So there's going to be a checkmate right there. He had to block the check here from the black queen, but it's okay, because I think we have an attack on this bishop by the queen and the bishop. Well, which piece do I go in with? This is interesting, because the knight, this white knight can defend that bishop, so we have to be careful. We don't want to go in with the queen, because then the knight will retake us, and we're just going to drop material. So bishop takes, then the knight will retake, and then the queen will take this rook. I think that's the sequence. Yep. I'm going to try to go for 2 more. We're pinning the knight, but that's okay. Let's see if we have an attack. Yeah, we have our knight fork again. I'm sorry, a pawn fork against the knight and the bishop, and the pawn is defended by this bishop as well. So it looks like this is going to win a piece, either the bishop or the knight, depending on which one he wants to give us. He's going to give us the bishop. That's fine. Alrighty. Very good. So this is going to... Oh my god, I know this knight fork. This is a knight fork. This happened to me in a tournament game once, and it was embarrassing, because it happened really fast in the game. Perhaps one week I will show it. This is a check here, and then we're going to either retake the queen with the knight or with the queen, depending on where this king ends up. So let's see what happens. Knight checks. The king's going to come out, and if I take with the queen, he's going to take with the knight. Both are winning, but I want to be greedy, and I want to keep all of my material. So we got 10. Let's see if we can do one more. Looks like we've got a knight here jumping near the king. We also got a pawn jumping. We got bishop. We got queen. Everything's pointing to the king's side. This is going to be dangerous for white. Let's see. How do I want to do it? Do I want to weaken everything? I can soften up the defenses this way. But let me see. I want to get this right. I can soften up this way. And then take here. I need an answer. I need an answer quick. Yep. And then take... Oh, I didn't have enough time. Yeah, there's a lot of exchanges here. I think bishop's going to take, and then pawn's going to take, and then queen's going to take behind it. So, yeah. We almost did it. We almost did it, guys. Alrighty. So, I did 10. That's not bad. Not bad. Okay, so for the first video, I hope that this was informative. I hope that you learned a lot of tactic patterns. As you see, a lot of the basic ones will repeat, and after you do several of them, you'll start getting the hang of it, and your speed will improve. Initially, I'm not too concerned with how fast you do them. What I am concerned about, though, is that you get them all right. You see how I have all green check marks, and I get very few wrong. That's the goal. We don't want to get strikes, because that shows that we're not understanding the problems. So go through them, understand them, and then when we do Puzzle Rush in class, or if you do it on your own, work on the accuracy first. Start recognizing the patterns, start getting them right, and then work for speed a little bit later. So thank you all so much, and I will see you in class again soon. All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.